Hi, and welcome back. I'm Christian, and today we're going to learn about 16th notes. What's actually really fun about where we're at right now is you have enough foundation to understand how we're going to be going, or I guess how we're going to be progressing going forward. There's kind of like a formula here that we're going to start tapping into, which is great because once you understand this idea and this formula, even if you encounter music you've never seen before or a rhythm you've never seen before, you're going to start having the tools to figure it out. And that's really huge, and that's where I'd like for us to get. So today we're talking about 16th notes. And over here, I've put together what is called the table of time. And we're going to start using the table of time every time we add a new rhythm going forward. And I like using the table of time because it allows us to see visually how the other rhythms relate to that beat. Again, we're talking about music. We're talking about pulse here. We're talking about a feeling. So we have to make these things musical. These rhythms have to be relatable to some sort of emotion, feeling, something that happens when we listen to music. So this table of time, we're going to go back and look at we're going to do a little bit of a review, and then hopefully you'll start to see the formula that we're setting up here. So we're starting with a whole note, and each is a single measure of 4/4. Each one of these lines is a single measure of 4/4 time. The whole note takes up 4 beats. You know this. Christian, I know this. You're just reviewing. Half note takes up 2 beats. Now, the reason why I like the table of time being set up in this way is because it's very obvious. If this is one measure, that note takes up the whole thing. If this is one measure, half notes take up half. You can kind of probably put a ruler and see that this is at the beginning, this is probably dead center, and it's nice, even, measured out evenly. Quarter notes are when you take the half note and you split those in half. There are 4 quarter notes in a measure of 4/4. That's what the time signature means, right? So you can see we have, let me see if I could do this, split this half note into 2. We get 2 quarter notes per half note. Same would happen here. We get 2 half notes per whole note. Like so. Then we learned about eighth notes. That was the last lesson. We learned that there are 2 eighth notes per quarter note. And I'll draw that line nice and clearly. So if we have 2 eighth notes per quarter note, there are 4 quarter notes in a measure. That means there are 8 eighth notes in a measure. And that's how we're set up here. We also have these beamed in groups of 2, so you can see basically here's 2 beats, here's 2 beats. Now we're going to talk about 16th notes, and as if you could already see on my chart here, 16th notes take the eighth notes and split those in half. So we have 2 eighth notes here. They split into 4 16th notes. So this eighth note becomes 2 16ths. This eighth note becomes 2 16ths. And I had to draw this here because I forgot to include it. An unbeamed 16th note is actually kind of similar to the unbeamed eighth note. So when we have an eighth note, it's just a note head with a stem and a single flag. An unbeamed 16th note is a note head with a stem and 2 flags, a little double flag. You'll also notice that when it's beamed together, we have a double beam. There's 2 lines in this beam. That's how you know you're counting 16th notes. Now, one of the things that's really cool, and this is why I like music, and it's kind of mathy, I guess, but you can start making all sorts of substitutions. So this 4 16th notes can take the place of this quarter note. Or you can do a combination of 2 16ths and 1 eighth note will take the place of 1 quarter note. The same way you can do, 2 eighth notes to take the place of 1 quarter note. So the music now starts to be interchangeable. And as we get into deeper forms of rhythm, that interchangeability becomes more and more obvious. And that's where we can really start finding some really cool rhythms and musical ideas. So let's start talking about how do we count this? How do we play it? I'm going to grab my metronome. I like to keep on the floor. And I've got it set to 65 to kind of make this manageable. Now, when we subdivide 16th notes, We have the number, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That still lines up on the beat. We also have the and. We have the eighth note. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We're hearing eighth note subdivisions. Now, the 16th note, because it's a split of the eighth note, means that we're actually now inserting another note in between the eighth notes. The same way we inserted the eighth note between quarter notes, 1, 2, 1 and 2. Now we're taking 1 and we're putting another syllable in between. The first syllable we add, we call E. So 1 and, 1 E and. Then we have the and the next number. Let's say and 2. In that space, we have a syllable we called a. So we would have 1 and a 2. Altogether, we end up with 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. There's 4 16th notes in each quarter note beat, or 2 16th notes for every eighth note. So again, we can go from 1. Now let's do it with a click. This is at 65. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. The ones always line up, the twos always line up, the ands always line up, and the thing that's cool is by counting a 16th note subdivision, you actually give strength to the eighth note. So the same way when we count eighth notes and we do an eighth note subdivision, when we count, we make the quarter note, like the numbers, line up a little bit better because we have more of a reference. The same thing happens when we count 16th notes. The eighth notes firm up a bit, and our numbers really firm up because there's a lot of reference points. So we're going to jump over now to Joel Rothman's Teaching Rhythm. I love this book, man. Love this book so much. And we're on page 26. Hopefully we can see that. Get that lined up. Unfortunately, I have to hold it because otherwise it's gonna fall off the table. I got metronome here at 65. And if you look at the top line, I'll point out here, what Joel has done is he's started substituting 4 16th notes for an entire quarter note. And if you remember the table of time, that is something we can do. There are 4 16ths in a quarter note. So instead of writing a quarter note, we could write 4 16ths. So if you look here, he even has the count out. It's a little bit different, but it's 1 E and a 2. So beat 1 is 4 16th notes. Beat 2 is a quarter note. That's all it can be. Quarter note. Done. Beat 3 is 2 eighth notes. So beat 3 has been split evenly into 2. And then beat 4 is just a quarter note. With our metronome going, here's what we get. I'll count 16ths. So I'm going to subdivide 16ths. And I'm going to play what's written right here on my lap. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2 E and a 3 E and a go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. I always mess up when I breathe. Anyway, you get the idea. And then so through the rest of the page, he actually moves around where he's placed that grouping of 16th notes. He's made it real simple. Instead of a quarter note, you're going to get 4 16th notes. So again, it's really important to count out loud to help you with the placement here. But I think you're starting to get the idea that it's not that difficult. Now, the other thing I had mentioned previously is sometimes people see, starting with 16th notes, they see 16ths and they think these are fast. That is not always true. If our metronome is like here, our 16ths would be 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. That's not fast. So 16ths aren't fast. That's not the way to think of it. The 16ths are 4 evenly spaced notes within one beat. Or if you want to count eighth notes, then there's 2 16ths per eighth note. Those are ways to think of it. And it'll help ground you so you're not rushing, and it helps give you better time. As a musician, you need good time. So pages 26, 27 are Joel's favorite mix of sixteenths, eighth notes, quarter note rests. On page 27, we have more 16th notes. So he's replacing more notes with 16th notes. So he's replacing quarter notes or more beats with 16th notes, okay? Then we get to page 28, and there is a brand new element of music that we haven't discussed yet. So last video, I was kind of surprised by seeing a single measure repeat thrown in. When I looked ahead, I didn't notice it. So I had to kind of jump the gun on this lesson a little bit. But a single measure repeat is that symbol. It looks like a % sign, and it means to just repeat the previous measure. That way the composer doesn't have to write the same thing twice. You write it once, and then you say, play it again. Now, we have a multi-measure repeat, and I've added these things to the Elements of Music cheat sheet that I'm putting together. The multi-measure repeat does the same thing, except it's a shortcut for saying to repeat the previous two measures. At least in this case, it has a 2. So repeat the previous 2 measures. So in this case, and make sure you can read it, you would play measure 1, measure 2, and then again, measure 1, measure 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 is basically this over again. Okay? Hey there, sorry to change it up on you. I know this is probably a little disconcerting, but I'm doing some editing on this video right now, and I realized it's about 10 minutes and it's getting a bit long. So I decided to wrap it up here and take the rest of the content from the original video. The original video is really long. It's like 20 minutes long. I've decided to split them in 2. So in the next video, I'm going to be discussing 16th notes when they're combined with 8th notes within the same beat. So stay tuned for that one. Hopefully that one should also be, like I said, about 10 minutes long. We'll dig more into the Joel Rothman pages related to that in that video. So for now, thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe so you can see all of these videos. And please check out my website, christianjohnsondrums.com, for other lessons. I have drum set stuff, pad exercises, etc. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.